Hey, it's time for TV Skywriter.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to TV Skywriter. I'm Pat Murray, your host. I publish the Durham Skywriter, that's Durham, North Carolina's online community paper. And then on the side, so to speak, I do TV Skywriter. That's a show where you don't have to be from Durham, although my guest is today. But if you'd like to be a guest, you just let me know. So today we have a very special guest, Dr. Nicole Swiner. I can't believe we met a year ago. Time goes so fast, but I am so very happy to have you here on TV Skywriter. Welcome to the show. Let's talk about your book. How are you?
Yes, I am. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me again. I'm honored.
Absolutely. I can't believe a year has passed already. And in fact, we were talking about your first, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk about your first book first, and then your latest. Now, the first book, How to Avoid the Superwoman Complex, 12 Ways to Balance Mind, Body, and Spirit. Wonderful book.
Thank you.
It was Book of the Month for several months in the Durham Skywriter. But tell me let's pretend like I don't know anything about it. So what is How to Avoid the Superwoman Complex? What's that about?
So Superwoman Complex, I like to define as the false notion of a woman being perfectly everything to everyone around her. So being the best mom, the best wife, the best sister, cousin, daughter, worker, employer, et cetera, et cetera. And at the end of the day, ending up being burnt out, overstretched, overwhelmed, not taking care of yourself, to sacrifice for others. So that's the Superwoman Complex. And what I try to write about, my mission and my ministry of joy, I like to call it, is to give women the permission to stop beating themselves up and stop, because a lot of that we unfortunately put on ourselves to be a superwoman, to uphold this false pretense of doing everything for everyone and doing it perfectly. So I want to give women the permission to take better care of themselves, to focus on self-care and not, burn the candle at both ends.
Now, you speak from a stance of authority. So you are an actual medical doctor, medical professional. So I'm wondering, did this book strike you, the idea for this book, because you saw in your practice this happening, or is this something that you grew up seeing, this Superwoman Complex? Right.
When the first book came out in March of 2015, I was, prior to that, because I began writing the book over the course of a couple years, that I was going to publish a book by writing blogs and things on social media about family medicine. I'm a family medicine doctor by trade, so I write about chronic health issues. And then over time, myself, I got married and had my first kid and had my second kid. And it was like boom, boom, boom.
Nice.
Not on purpose. Not on purpose. But with that and working full time and being, our practice became hospital owned, and then we picked it up privately. So now being a business person, an entrepreneur, my father was really the first one to say, okay, let's take a pause. How are you doing? I want you to read this article I read in Newsweek. And it had to do about women in the workforce, handling things at home, handling things on the outside, at work, businesses, etc., and burning themselves out. And I think
what had he noticed?
Right. So he never was forthright. I always asked him, I was like, were you trying to give me a sign, or what were you noticing? He said, I just want you to read it. But it was in some way a premonition, because not shortly thereafter, I had kind of an incident at work where I just come back to work after having my first child, about 8 to 10 weeks postpartum, back to the usual business of work, handling things. I was breastfeeding at home, so probably not sleeping well, and had this kind of lightheaded passing out episode that stopped me in my tracks. And so thankfully everything was fine. Had all the checkups, everything was good. But of course, you think about stress. Was I doing too much? Was I not taking care of myself? Was I not sleeping well? Was I trying to do too much at work at once? So it usually takes some health scare of some sort that, stops you in your tracks, and you have to reassess everything.
You would think a doctor would already know that.
Right. We are, unfortunately, you know, stereotypically in the medical field, most of us are type A. Most women, most professional women, most women in general are type A. You know, we're just born to do and just keep on going. And so that's what I was doing. I was, you know, had the baby, picked right up, went back to work, tried to excel, and it's part of who we are and what we do. And, you know, our bodies will keep going until they can't anymore. And so what I'm trying to do is have women learn from my mistakes and say, you want to get in front of it before you have some episode that ends you up in the doctor's office, in the emergency room, or worse. And you want to try to reassess your stress level, make sure you're taking good care of yourself.
Now, does this happen to people across the board? I mean, I'm used to hearing people say that Black women typically fall under the spell of thinking that they're super women. Does this happen across the board to Hispanic women, white women, Asian women?
It
Native
definitely,
American women?
Right. It's definitely across the board. And there, you know, there are super men as well. But there seems to be this unique phenomenon of the Black superwoman syndrome. There was actually an article, I don't want to misquote, I think either written in Ebony or Essence a couple of years ago about the Black superwoman syndrome. And it was very timely, right on time with when, you know, as my book was coming out too. And so there definitely seems to be a heavier burden that minority women carry, you know, historically, stereotypically, whatever it is. I see a lot of it in practice.
So before we talk about your second book, I'd like to know your first book, How to Avoid the Superwoman Complex. How did the market treat it? And did it gain popularity quickly? I suspect it did.
I think it did. You know, I self-published through Amazon. Most of the marketing and the pushing was me, my husband, you know, a couple of folks on my team here locally, you clearly, friends and colleagues of mine that I have that have blogs, have shows, you know, putting me on. You know, I didn't sell 1 million copies, and I didn't become an Amazon star at that point. But I think that it definitely opened doors for me to be able to travel, to be able to speak at conferences and events. You know, and of course, to be able to work up to doing more writing and having more experience to write the second book, which thankfully did become a bestseller within its first couple of weeks. So I think in general, we've done very well.
Wonderful. So let's talk about the second book. It is called The Superwoman Complex, a follow-up visit. So tell us about this second book.
Yes. So doctors in general, you know, we love the follow-up. You know, we want to know how you're doing. Did you follow our advice? You know, what are your numbers looking like now since you hopefully did what we talked about, you know, at the previous visit. So I love the kind of the double entendre of having this book as the follow-up visit to check in with hopefully, you know, the readers that hopefully had read the first book, and for myself, for you to see what's happened with me over the last year and a half with, you know, having written the book and now have 2 kids, 2 toddlers, you know, working full time, but now also doing this book speaking thing, you know, checking in with one another. So I've been pleased about the responses so far with the second book.
Now, what are you doing differently now that you have so much going on? You have even more than you did this time last year. So what are you doing differently to follow your own advice?
So I'm constantly checking myself. You know, I'm not waiting for some passing out moment or for my father to say, slide an article to me. I'm definitely trying to check myself more frequently and say, okay, what's really necessary, what's unnecessary. Let's make a priority list. I don't have to do everything in one fell swoop. I'm asking for help a lot, you know, so for friends like you that have shows that can help me to promote, or for, you know, babysitters that can fold some extra laundry while they're taking care of the kids, or my husband to, you know, pick up dinner or cook a couple of times a week so I don't have to worry about that. I'm asking for a lot of help, which I was doing before, but I'm definitely more comfortable doing it now. Like, I have no shame in asking people to help me now. Like, I need your help.
You know, it is funny. It is difficult for a lot of people to ask for help. Why do you think that is?
Some people, particularly, and, you know, stereotypically, depending on what you read, you know, minority women, you know, we don't want to appear weak. A lot. We also don't want, women in general, we don't want to be taken advantage of to appear as if we owe someone something. You know, we want to appear like we can handle it, we can do it, it's no problem. I don't want to have to rely on anyone but me. Some of us also have this idea of if you want it done right, do it yourself.
Oh boy.
Right? So it's like, I'll do it. I'll know how to do it right. So there's a couple of reasons.
And, everything doesn't have to be perfect.
No, it doesn't.
I don't know why people have this. Now, certain things do have to be perfect in your life. Okay, I admit that. But not everything has to be perfect.
Not everything.
And it's okay to ask for help. And it's okay to slow down. And it's okay to take some me time.
Yes. So another thing that I did was, and what I talked to a lot of ladies about, if you're able, is I cut back on my clinic hours a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I don't work Fridays, which is wonderful. So that I can either, so if you can do that, if you have the opportunity to do that, if you can afford to do that, I would do it, or, cut back a little bit on your hours if possible, so that you can either stay home and just recuperate, or you can have extra time to do stuff like this, do stuff that you're passionate about, your hobbies, do more things that make you happy versus doing things you have to do all the time.
I want to ask you something. Okay, and talking to my parents years ago when I was a kid, when my mom met my dad, after they got married, let's put it that way, he was going to law school. He wanted to be an attorney. His dad was an attorney. He wanted to be one too. Mom got pregnant right away with my older sister, and they were like how can I put this? This was at an interesting time. This was in the late 50s. Okay. This is at a time when redlining was disappearing in many cities, including my city, Chicago. And Black folks wanted to move up and quickly. And when they were starting to buy homes, like in the late 50s, we moved into a house when I was 2. Status was very important. Getting the biggest house you could afford was very important. But Pop did an interesting thing. He abandoned his idea, his dream of becoming an attorney, and he became a social worker, and social workers make far, far, far less money than attorneys. I saw my dad's paycheck once. It was about the same as mine. It was just over minimum wage when I was first starting working, because of all the health benefits they were taking out. We actually ended up with 3 kids in the family. But here's the thing. My dad didn't mind being a social worker, even though they bought a smaller house than their friends, and he was making far less money. But he didn't mind that because he put us first. Right. You know what I mean? And so I'm wondering, does that still exist where you have to balance whether you can make all the money you can or sacrifice that to have the family you want?
You hit the nail on the head. That's right. Right. So when I was kind of referring to, taking time off or cutting back on your hours, etc., some of that also forces you to downsize or to reassess your finances. So for instance, when I graduated from medical school and from residency, I said, okay, I can get a real job now. I can actually, spend the money I've been wanting to make all these years. Got the Mercedes. Great. Excited. But guess what? Those kids cost money.
Oh, yeah.
That premium gas costs money. That auto work, every time you put it into the shop, that's extra money. My husband said, you know what? This is absolutely ridiculous. We need a minivan.
Okay.
We need an affordable car, regular gas, decreasing our auto repair money. And I absolutely hated the idea. But guess what? Now that I'm able to take that Friday off, I can actually see the difference. We don't have to push so hard to make the money. We can relax a little bit. You may have to get a smaller house. You may have to decide private school versus public school, which is another decision we had to make recently. You definitely shouldn't have to struggle just to live check to check. Life is too short. Do what you have to do to survive and be able to enjoy life a little bit.
I agree with that, and I'm really glad that you're able to impart that kind of knowledge, because too often people think that success is not putting your family first, even though you think you are. You think you're getting the gigantic car and the huge house for your family, but our house was big enough. And now that I'm living in Durham, I'm visiting homes of people, like friends of my mom and aunt and whatnot, and their houses are much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And they had three and four kids, and it's fine.
They did it. That's right.
You don't need the mansion.
You don't.
And
really don't.
Now, what about? I'm curious in terms of the pressure. We're talking about money. A lot of times, the pressure all comes from the money and the pursuit of it. Do you have anything in your book, in your second book, where you are somehow able to? We just talked about cutting back in terms of, Now, I read an article where white families spend 75% of their income on housing. That's a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So do you deal with anything like that? How to not get suckered into something like that? Because I'm sure that causes an awful lot of stress. Very often when you hear about a white man losing his six-figure job or whatever, of course we only hear about it when it makes the news, when he goes ballistic and does something horrible.
Right.
How can people avoid getting caught up in that kind of a rat race where you're paying 75% of your income on housing because you want to live in an exclusively whatever type of neighborhood, and to the point where when you lose your job, you kill your family.
You kirk out. Yeah.
Crazy.
We call it being house poor. You spend all your money and you put it into this piece of property that you hope will appreciate, but usually depreciates, and you don't get the money out of it that you put into it. You just have to come to terms and just reassess what's important in life. Your kids, my kids are little, do they care whether or not we have 3 stories or 2 stories? They could probably care less. Like you said, you grew up in a perfectly happy home with 3 kids, and your parents did fine. And, most of us growing up have no idea what status means. I think having a happy, healthy, lighthearted home or peaceful home is much more important than having a huge house, because you can, like you mentioned, you can lose that in a second.
Right.
They fire and let people off at work and you're done.
Mm-hmm. Whereas in my dad's case, if he had lost, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
You froze. So I didn't mean to talk over you.
That's okay.
But we only have 11 minutes left because now we're limited to a half hour with TV Skywriter because years of the People's Channel locally. So I want to ask you about the marketing, the clever marketing that you have done. I noticed you're a lot on Periscope, and some of us might not know what Periscope is. So tell us about that aspect of getting the word of your book out.
Well, you, Pat, I have to credit and give you some glory, because you actually introduced me to Periscope on a large scale. So I learned a lot from your broadcasting that you were doing. Yeah, I really did. So, watching how you were interacting and engaging with the community that was watching you live helped me to be more comfortable to try it out. Periscope is a free app that you can download onto your smartphone, and you can subscribe to your favorite folks that are talking about whatever interesting topics. You'll get an alert on your phone that person is going live. You can look in, give hearts and likes, and type in comments and questions. I love it. It's free. You can potentially reach thousands of people. You have many people watching or watch the replay. You can join groups. Like I'm part of Perry Girls TV that does broadcasting. It's phenomenal. And
your name is Doc Swiner on Periscope, right?
It is. All their social media.
Awesome. So I wanted you, if you don't mind, can you tell us about the Perry Girls? I mean, do you use your membership in the Perry Girls to market your book as well?
Absolutely. So Perry Girls is a women-led group on social media, but it's for Periscope. So women is probably, I think, 11,400 plus members strong at this point.
Whoa.
Yes, for women that want to do live broadcasting, marketing, social media promotions. It's supportive. They teach you great tips and advice on the use of other social media outlets. Like I wouldn't have known certain things about Instagram or Facebook had I not been part of that group. And it's they started a Perry Girls TV specific channel on Periscope that has different quote unquote shows. So mine, for instance, which is on Wednesdays at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, is called Ask the Doc.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, so I get to talk about whatever, the Superwoman complex. I talk about the books a little bit. I try not to over promote my stuff on Perry Girls, but they've been very, willing to allow me to do that. But we talk about whatever medical stuff comes up. chronic disease, women's health. It's fun.
So is using Periscope and these other, social media platforms, is that the new way to promote books now? I mean, it used to be you'd get a promoter or a publicist rather to handle your publicity, but now is it do it yourself?
A lot of it is do it yourself. Absolutely. You can't promote a book now without the use of social media, because that's where you find people. People aren't reading the paper and going to bookstores as much as they used to. They want to see you. They actually want to see you engaging, see you in live action, be able to maybe even ask you questions about your product before they go out and buy it. We're a virtual community now. So, you not only do you need to have your book on print, but you need to have it on as an electronic book, as an audio book, be able to post certain things about those things virtually on the internet. You have to be savvy now on social media. And
speaking of having your book there with you, may we see your books? Let's check them out.
Yes, of course. So this is the first one. How to Avoid the Superwoman Complex, 12 Ways to Balance Mind, Body, and Spirit. And the follow-up visit, number 2. Both available on Amazon.
Congratulations. Do you have like a website or a forum or something like that so that people can connect with you even more?
I do. So if you don't catch me on Periscope, which is kind of live interaction with me, or Facebook Live, my website is docswiner.com. So it's my name, docswiner.com. And if you like to read blogs, I also have a blog site, docswiner.wordpress.com. And that's where I usually post. Today I actually posted one of the chapters from the new book, free chapter.
Nice.
Up there about breast cancer. Yeah. So this is breast cancer awareness and all that. So, but yeah, docswiner.com is my hub.
So when you have a blog, do you have to add a new article to it every week or every day?
I probably do it once or twice a month. Sometimes it's a topic related to the Superwoman Complex. Sometimes it has to do with the medical month that we're in. So October, for instance, is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So I try to post relevant things depending on the timing. And I usually am on there once or twice a month.
That's great. If you don't mind, since we have a couple extra minutes, I know the first time you were on TV Skywriter, you gave us a hint about the upcoming conference, and it was in January, I believe, called New Year, New You.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
So are you going to have another one?
I am. We are planning January the 7th, 2017. Yes.
You already know the date. Wow. Where's it going to be and what's it going to be all about?
1717. It's going to be at the same place. Yeah, the Jewish Life Center on Duke University's campus. And I'm coming up with a theme. I think I'm going to, so the first year was the inaugural conference, and we had a phenomenal time, sold out crowd, vendors, panels, live music, food. It was great. This year, I'm trying to come up with a theme. I think I'm thinking of a theme towards like keeping it moving, continuing the motivation, the impetus, something that has to do with, continuing to move is the theme that I'm thinking about. But it's going to be kind of the same kind of format where we had an open interactive group, one-on-one speakers, but then probably the biggest thing, the most popular thing last year was the Real Talk from Real Men's panel. So even though it's a women's conference primarily, my husband and 3 of my other male friends and colleagues to come on and have just a lively, open discussion about love, relationships, the Superwoman complex from a men's perspective, Superman complex. It was phenomenal. So 1717, it's coming soon.
So there is a Superman complex as well?
Absolutely.
So is it the same as Superwoman except it's guys, or do they have special challenges?
It's very similar. I think stereotypically men feel that they are supermen no matter what. They have to carry a stereotypical macho stance and take, bring home the bacon and all of that. But clearly there are medical, mental health, emotional, negative effects that can have on men, just the same as women deal with it. You know, depression, anxiety, high blood pressure, all that stuff can happen to men too. Mm-hmm. It's all about how we handle the stress.
Now, I know this is 2016, so this might be a dumb question, but I do remember seeing on TV where it was a matter of pride for a man to work and the woman to stay home. Does that exist at all anymore? Because during my childhood, all the women worked. Well, all women worked, but I mean worked outside the home.
So I think we're getting more comfortable with the idea of the stay-at-home dad.
Stay-at-home dad.
Yeah, we are. My husband in particular, when my first two were born for their lives, well, he works from home anyway. You know, so he has his entrepreneurial business at home, but he kept them home. He kept our kids home for the first at least 18 months of their lives, both of them. And he's a very macho, manly man, you know, but he wouldn't have had it any other way. He's very comfortable, you know, ultra confident. It doesn't regret a moment of having that time spent with them, and they are very close to him because of it, and hopefully will remain very close to him because of it. So I think it's phenomenal for men to be comfortable to switch those roles, those gender roles that society places on, you know, what is macho and what is feminine. You know, I love that.
I think it's wonderful and remarkable because, you know, in some countries that just wouldn't fly.
Right.
It would be so strange to see a man caring for young ones, you know. I think it's beautiful. I'd love to see, I love to see a dad. Actually, I love to see dads with their daughters, but dads with their sons, that's just something special.
It is very nice.
That's wonderful. So give us a little review on your books, how to find the titles of your books, because I want to promote both of them, because it seems that they both go together, right?
They do. So both of them, here they are again.
Beautiful.
Available on Amazon. In print and audio and electronic versions on Kindle. So definitely get those there. You can also contact me directly through DocSwiner.com, especially if you want like a signed copy, autographed. And through my website, I also have my store, which has the books. I have some t-shirts, some tote bags, and a Superwoman sleep serum that I made up with some organic materials for insomnia and for hormonal things. So you can find it at my store on DocSwiner.com. And then contact me at any point. You know, I'm on almost all social media outlets: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Doc Swiner, Periscope at Doc Swiner, or Pay Girls TV. And I'm for hire if you if you need me. If you need me to come and speak at your event or your conference or your women's group, youth group, let me know. I would love to.
Wonderful. So thank you so very much, Dr. Nicole Swiner, for being on the show.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, folks, if you'd like to check out TV Skywriter, if you'd like to be a guest, just contact me. The quickest way is via Twitter at durhamskywriter. This is my return to Google Plus/YouTube. It's really interesting to be back. So be sure to read. If you have not seen the Durham Skywriter, it's an online community newspaper for Durham, North Carolina. It's durhamskywriter.com. All positive, all chock full of information. Also, like I said, be sure to check out TV Skywriter. And every day, Bull City Notes. I will be doing that on Facebook Live and also probably YouTube Live as well. So, and that is Bull City Notes. It's every morning where I tell you what's happening in 5 minutes, sometimes 7. Durham, North Carolina. And with that, you have a beautiful evening, beautiful day, and I'll see you real soon. Thanks again, Nicole.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Ciao for now.